In this video, we will be learning about storing and retrieving data from S3. So there are two basic things that we need to keep in mind. First thing is what is bucket, and next thing is what is object. So bucket is a location where you keep all the data, and object is the data itself. So for example, if you store a file that is stored in the form of an object, it can be image, it can be video, it can be a zip archive, it can be a rar archive, it can be anything, any static file that you would want to save. So let us just start with this. So here we have this S3 management console, and here we have a bucket, right? Now if you notice something, the very first thing that you would notice on your screen is on the top right corner, it is a global service. S3 is not a region specific service, it is a global service. Buckets inside this are region specific. So you can see all the buckets, whatever you create. For example, I'll create a bucket and here I will choose a name. Now, while choosing a name for a bucket, keep one thing in mind, you have to provide a internet DNS specific name. Plus, the thing is that it should be unique. So here say my test bucket and some random text. Why? Because I just want it to be a unique name. Why? Because it will cause me trouble later on. Now I have the flexibility of choosing any region. These are the regions which are available. There are few regions which are disabled. No need to worry about those regions. But yes, you can say work on the available regions. For example, North Virginia is the most common region. It is the say very first region to get updates because this is the first region provided by Amazon. We will be going through with this one now. So here I have done this thing. I have chosen this North Virginia region. What's next? So we have an option of blocking public access. If we want private files, yes, we can block public access if we want to serve these files over the internet, not in say embedding the files, but I want these files to be accessed directly. In that case, we can enable public access by unchecking this particular option. But the moment I uncheck this option, you can notice one thing. It is not giving me any prompt here, but the moment I uncheck this, it is giving me a prompt that my files will be visible to the internet and they are public, so they can be accessed directly. And here, even if I enable the access, still I need to perform few things before say accessing those files. But yes, I would be able to access these files later on. So I can choose this option, I acknowledge, and if I acknowledge it, then only I would be able to make them public. Otherwise, I can just keep them private right now. So I'll keep them private. Next thing is versioning. We will be learning about versioning later on. So let us just leave it right this. And here the next thing is encryption. Encryption is by default disabled. We will be learning about encryption later on. So let us just ignore this one as well. Now what we can do is we can simply click on create bucket. The moment we click on create bucket, a new bucket will be created with the same name. And you can see that there are two buckets now. One is in Asia Pacific, that is in Mumbai, which was already created. And here you can see that we have another bucket created that is in North Virginia. If I click on this bucket name, I will be taken inside this particular bucket. And here I can add up files, I can create folders, I can have the files the way I want them to be. So I can upload any random file. So let us just upload one file. And here I'll click on add files. I can drag and drop the files in folders as well. So here, let us just do one thing. Let us just upload something from my pictures. And here I have the servers and databases file. The moment I click on next, right, my file is showing up here. The file size is 10.8 KB. If I click on next, I get to see some options, whether I want the object to be read or I want the object permissions to be changed later on. I can choose these things here right away. And here, next thing is say other AWS account. You can provide the say details about other AWS accounts as well in case if you want them to be accessed by another AWS account. Click on next. There are few things. Now, by default, the storage class is standard. That is a frequently accessed data class. You have the options of other storage classes as well that we learned earlier. And here you can choose any of the storage classes. Right now, my motive is just to show you the say how the files are stored and accessed. So standard is okay for that. In case if you want to use say if you want to store the data for longer periods of time, you can use one of the glacier say options, glacier or glacier deep archive, and here you can store the data say for more than say 6 months, right? 180 days is the minimum storage time there, so you will be charged for 180 days at least. So here click on next, and we have this say summary page. Click on upload. The file will be uploaded, and you can see that the file will be showing up here in a moment. And here I can see that this is the file. If I click on this particular file, we will be getting to see some information about it. Who is the owner? Selenium Training 10 is the owner. When was it last modified? It was last modified at this particular point of time. What is the E tag? So this is the E tag. Anything else? Storage class. Yes, we have the storage class, that is standard. Server side encryption. No, we are not encrypting it. Object URL. This is the URL with which we can access this particular file. But if I click on this URL, we won't be able to access it. Why? The reason is that we don't have programmatic access to this file right now, right? But if we still want to see the file, then how would we be able to see this file? Click on the option open. It will open that particular file that you have stored, and you can see that a file has been opened. It is a bit darker image, but the thing is that here you can see this file being loaded on your system. So this is how you can store the files, you can retrieve the files. And the best thing is that even if you don't have any other access, you still can retrieve the files and deal with the files through S3 management console. And this is the location where you can deal with the files. You have the options of download as well. You have the option of copy path. So there are a few things that you can do. You can change the properties as well. You can change the permissions for this particular file as well, and you can say do some more things as well. But let us just ignore this last section. You have the option of setting permissions. You can set the permissions, and this is the canonical ID for this particular AWS account, or the account that I'm using. So there are few details, but the main thing is that how the bucket is created, how the data is stored. So data is stored in this form. You can see the files listed here. You can say nest the files inside any other folder as well. It is not mandatory that you keep all the files in the same location. You can have multiple folders created. You can have say folders and inside folders created. It is not a thing that you cannot create folders inside folders. So you have that flexibility, and you have that data that you would want to store for longer periods of time, or you want to access the data immediately or frequently. So this was for this video. If any queries, you can feel free to ask in comments.